I'm going to talk about three things. First of all, that over and above any services or products, banks, and particularly private banks, sell trust. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the disruption that we face as a private banking industry and what we can learn from some of the technologies, the technology companies and startups that have emerged. And then finally, how we can all use trust in our day-to-day lives, but also in business. So I'll start with what is private banking. So essentially, it's banking and investment services for high net worth individuals. So our minimum account size would be about £1 million. That's one of our offices in Paris. Yes, we have a vault, we have a safe. We're 200 years old, almost as old as the modern banknote. So we've got to innovate now. There's an argument to say that you don't last 200 years without innovating along the way, but we're learning some new techniques and it's getting us into some interesting places. So, why do clients come to us? Well, typically our clients require, move the hand off Stephen Fry's face. Typically our clients require greater quality of service. So a personal relationship, someone that you can call whenever you need and answer any question that you need. Deeper expertise, so you get a whole investment team, you get people that have niche understanding based on your personal situation. And then finally the security that we've been around for 200 years, the security that we have dealt with people in your situation before. But if we think about the value proposition of a private bank, it's actually that we remove anxiety from your life, from your financial life. And we enable you to make good financial decisions. So if you imagine yourself as an entrepreneur, as I'm sure many are in the room, and you've just sold your business for £20 million. You haven't had this kind of money before. You don't know what you want to do with it. You've got a few ideas, but you know that money is coming into your account. Now all of a sudden you're getting emails, phone calls from every bank in the country, every advisor around you telling you what you should be doing with your money and how what they have as a solution is best for you. And in fact, what the entrepreneur does is freeze and almost become either very lonely or it becomes very difficult to make the right decision to do with your money. Now that's the worst thing you can do with any sum of money, just sitting in cash. You know, year on year, it's getting eroded by inflation. So you know you need to do something with it, but there's no one around you that you can trust. Whereas if you had someone that you did trust, if you had a trusted advisor, trusted partner, you'd expect them to know a lot about your personal situation, what you're trying to achieve in life, what your family is doing, how many kids you have, what's important to you, whether you want to work, what time you want to retire in life. So all of that stuff is very, very important. And then when it comes to, let's say you want a mortgage, let's say that you're introduced to a lawyer or a broker, you don't want that to be because it benefits the bank. You want someone that has your best interests at heart, no matter what you're asking for. It also advises you from making some bad decisions. So, as a private banking industry, what is the challenge that we face? Well, there are three key challenges that we're coming across. One is that our value proposition is based on relationship, how well we know our client. And that is often over years and years of face-to-face interactions, coming into our offices, meeting us, discussing us coming to your house, understanding everything that is going on across your life. But those client touch points, if you imagine the client journey from you're not a client through to you've been a client of ours for 10, 20 years, all of those face-to-face touch points where you read as many signals as you can to understand what someone's thinking, what someone's feeling, they're slowly being eroded or at least handed over to digital touch points. I mean, we're starting with communications, but they're slowly being eroded away. And slightly less personal too. Now, secondly, challenger banks are coming in. Now, challenger banks are building amazing brands with incredibly engaging front-end experiences. Finally, on top of that, you have open banking. And as you touched upon, it's a marketplace model. Now, what's happening to the incumbent banks is their services are going to be offered through APIs, through a marketplace model, and sat on top of that is the engaging front end, the startup that we all love. Now, the challenge there is that the banks are burdening the cost of the client, while the front end experience, the startup challenger banks, are getting all of the love and the brand equity and the lifelong relationships. You know, banking is one of the only relationships that on average lasts longer than the average UK marriage. In private banking, that's tenfold. So often our relationships are 10, 20, 30 years, but in more cases than you would think, it's multiple generations. You know, going back hundreds of years that have been passed on through your children, through your grandchildren, through your estate. Typically only lasts 3 generations, but that's a different talk. Essentially the money gets spent by the grandchildren. So I joined Climate Hambros to build a digital, end-to-end, fully automated private bank, the Tesla of banking. You know, the top grade that would outperform on every single metric, that didn't need people and was more accurate. What I realized, having looked back at my research that said all my clients would love this, was I was asking the wrong question. I was asking, is this what our clients want? And if you imagine you're out for dinner, best meal of your life, and someone says, do you want that but better? You're going to go, yeah, of course I do. But when we start looking at, is this what our clients really need? The question gets flipped on its head and you start understanding, actually, we probably would lose all of our clients if we did this. Because the one thing they care about is that personal relationship, the fact that I can say anything to my trusted advisor, my trusted partner. If you automate that, then I'm out of here. So I started thinking of some other cliched technology companies that we could learn from. And I landed on these two. So one of these companies lets strangers into your house. The other one puts you in a car with an unqualified driver, and that car's unmarked. So what are they doing to get you to that stage where you're willing to do that? Well, I came across a blog post by Airbnb, and there's a great TED talk as well, but Airbnb actively designed for trust. Now, the way that they describe it is they design as the mutual friend. So if you imagine yourself being invited to a party by a mutual friend, and before you get there, he starts replying to you. You don't know what you should be wearing. You don't know whether it's a dinner party. You don't know whether people are going to be dancing, whether you should bring a gift. You panic. You don't know anyone there. How do you know this person? You don't know what the other people are going to be like. And you get there and you end up standing in the corner just eating snacks the whole time and then leaving without speaking to anybody. They say that this is a bad experience. What a good experience is your mutual friend does respond an hour before. And he says, don't worry, I've called the host, I told them that you're coming. Everyone at this party knows 4, 5, 6, 7 of your mutual friends. When they went last time, they loved it. When you get there, by the way, he likes Pinot Noir, so make sure you take a bottle of that. Good user experience, good party. Think of a waiter. Think of the best waiter at the best restaurants. Your wine glass is always full. You don't see it happen. Your empty plate is never left in front of you. And when you do have a question, they have it at their fingertips. If anything, they know better than you do about what you want. And that made me realize that what they're doing has actually been the fundamental principles of good service for hundreds of years. Because they get out of the way. They know when to get out of the way. They remove your anxieties. They enable engaging offline experiences. And they set your expectations before you get there. So let's have a look at a few examples. Fantastic. So these are screenshots of Airbnb. I'm sure you've all used it before. I'll whip through this one very quickly. They're telling you up front, so how are we minimizing uncertainties, setting expectations, and enabling an engaging offline experience? Well, they're telling you what the house rules are. They're telling you what the cancellation policy is. to set expectations, they've got ratings of other people that are similar to you, reviews that are also qualitative, that have a long piece of text there to calm anything that you may thought happened. And then finally, they tell you a bit about the host. There's a bit in here about Bruno that he loves art and design. Now that's just letting you build an engaging offline experience with someone. That's got nothing to do with Airbnb, but that's enabling you to do what you wanted to do in the first place. So, interesting. How do Uber do it? So again, some more basic examples. They minimize uncertainties, instantly telling you who the driver is, where your exact pickup location is. I mean, you can almost imagine the conversation. Do you want to get in this car? Well, not really. I don't know who the driver is. How do I know that he's done it before? I don't know where to meet him. What happens if I can't get hold of him? They're literally knocking each one of these questions out with user experience. They're setting your expectations. They're telling you how much it costs, how long it's going to take. Even if your driver's on his way and he takes a wrong turn, it goes up to 4 minutes. They don't even let you get anxious because they're constantly reacting, almost live. And then finally, the engaging offline experience. They let you play your own music. Sometimes the driver will talk to you, sometimes they won't, but those reviews, you know, will always keep people honest and always allow you to get to the other side. So what can we learn from this? Well, when I say we, as a private bank, we can learn quite a lot from this. So we can learn that we can be more personal through digital experiences, understanding more about our clients, being more flexible around their lives. We can be more accurate with our recommendations. So through open banking, one of the exciting pieces is the opportunity to compare yourself against other people that are like you. You know, what is someone else that was in your exact situation with your exact amount of money? What decisions did they make and how did that go for them? And then we can minimize quite a few uncertainties by being more accurate with our data and projecting forward, almost simulating what your life would look like if you carry on spending the way you are. But more importantly, what happens if something happens to you? So it's all very well and good that you're on a good income today. What if something happens to you? How is the rest of your family going to continue living the lifestyle that they're accustomed to? And what can you do today to protect that? So, we are starting to see some of this creep in. Great. So, on the left here, we have some user interface pieces from Wealthsimple, just launched in the UK. These are a robo-advisor, so no humans involved. They allow you to open an investment account. And they're tackling what we call the fact find. So the fact find is a common thing when you first meet a client. You sit down with them, you understand everything about their life situation, try and aggregate their whole wealth. A lot of what people are pushing for in digital, we already do, but just face to face. And if you work with any agencies, it's actually a lot cheaper to hire a person to do that face to face currently than it is to build a fully automated Tesla of banking. So it's engaging, it's simple, you can come back to it whenever you want, but I would argue that their design is for scalability rather than for the user. Because what this enables them to do is stay regulated and onboard thousands and thousands and thousands of clients because it's a repeatable process. But how much are they really finding out about you and how are they driving you to be honest and accurate with your real situation? And then second to this, on the right, you have a projection. So this is taken from Betterment, fantastic robo-advisor in the US. And what this is trying to tell you here is that, okay, so in 2020, you've got about $2,000. If you continue to contribute to that and you put it in one of our investment portfolios, it's going to end up somewhere around, by 2050, somewhere between £200,000 and £800,000. Pretty wide dispersion. And then when you look at that, they say, well, a good outcome is sort of £800,000 to £1 million. You go, yes, I'll have some of that, please. I'll take that investment portfolio. But really, this simulation is made up of 10,000 estimations of other people that have had similar accounts to you. So you're just as likely to hit this bottom outcome of 200,000 as you are at the top outcome of 800,000. Is that coming through in the user interface? Now, to explain disruption in our specific industry. We often look at the wealth life cycle. This is applicable to any sort of scale of wealth. But so when you're 18 to 25, in terms of the financial services that you require, it's probably some budgeting, an ISA, a current account, maybe some life insurance protection or income protection. But really what you should be doing is building the good habits, making sure that you've got a rainy day fund, making sure that you're not going to run out of money, but just getting used to saving whatever you have income to your account. Then 25, typically you leave university, but between 25 and 45, a lot of the motivations are the same. The big life events are having children, buying a house, saving for a mortgage. And then your children leave home, and it's time to enjoy your wealth because you're no longer funding whether it's children's education, whether it's maintenance of having children around. But you have surplus income coming in that you were not used to before. And actually you should be doing something about it because you need to retire at some point. You have income coming in today, you won't then. So let's say you can live on, your household can live on £50,000 a year. You do that for 10 years, from 65 to 75, that's £500,000 that you need in your pension. That perhaps you haven't thought about, perhaps you haven't been saving. So that's where a private bank is very, very good. And here at the moment is where the challenger banks are very, very good. If you think of your Monzos and Revoluts, you know, they're tackling some of the budgeting problems. Nutmeg as well, great for an ISA. But as you get to here, not only am I worried about my retirement and my pension, but pension laws are consistently moving. So should I draw down from my ISA first? Should I take protection out? Should I invest it in a property? Should I actually sell my property and move that into equities? These are decisions that are so personal that currently the digital world isn't there to answer that. We all hope that one day that'll shift across, and as we mature with it and people get used to those brands, perhaps that will. And then finally, there's establishing your legacy. So that's, do you give your money away, and if so, how and who to, and what's the best way to do that? If you're handing it down to your children, how do you make sure that they don't get penalized along the way? So these are all questions that when it comes to it, you have to have someone that you trust. That may one day be a mobile app, may one day be a person that has all of this technology at their fingertips so they can be more accurate and more personal. We don't know. Finally, just think about how you build trust. So what's the split in this room between sort of banking and agency, or creative and finance? So people that work at agencies? People that work in banks? Cool, so about 50-50. Now, I probably get approached about hundreds of times a year by agencies to work with us. You're a bank, we'd love to work with you, you've got everything that you need. That to me is the same as being the entrepreneur that's being approached by multiple advisors. The big ticket work that we do is always built over long-term relationships where people have our interests at heart. They're not pushing their products, they're not desperate to get your business. So I think we can think about that in our corporate life, but also sometimes our personal life. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Max? Yes, Julie.
Hi Max, I was interested, and I think I agree with the real personal touch at an investment bank of sort of that type of clientele. But could you talk a bit about how you're using AI maybe? Because I could see that would fulfill part of that solution, maybe not the very top end, but some of it.
Easy question, we're not. So artificial intelligence, yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? If you can replace a human with an artificially intelligent robot that sucks in all the data across the world, compares it against people like you and gives you better advice, we're just not there yet. Machine learning requires big data. This isn't big data. Big data is when you start introducing Internet of Things. When your house is paying your rent for you and assessing all of the multiple different devices across your home, that's serious big data. That's where you need some artificial intelligence. So I would say it's not there yet. And personally, my trust is then in the engineers that are building it. And there's a really interesting debate going between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk at the moment. And when those are the two guys that understand this, I'm not going to start messing around with my clients' money with it. So I just don't think we're quite there.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm just thinking it's quite interesting the market that now, you used Airbnb and Uber as examples, and I just think the market is ripe for overtaking
It completely is.
with traditional banks, really.
Absolutely. And if you look at where AI is being implemented, it is on the investment side, monitoring the markets. That's been going on for years, monitoring the markets. What we believe, so there's a really good example of this. When AI was sort of first invented, it took out the world's best chess champion. So then they came back, and what beat that bot that beat the world's best chess champion? Well, it was a group of bots taking on that one bot. That was the ultimate, that was the dream. But then the one thing it couldn't beat is when you had a human with a team of bots sat in front of him that he understood how to read that data and how to work it. There still yet isn't been anything that's surpassed that. I'm sure that's a challenge to Google that they would happily shut me up on. But I still see that human piece playing a very big part.
I have a quick question about the human side. So when you're dealing with very high net worth individuals, when you engage with them or when you speak to an agency, how do you get them in a room? I mean, how do you presumably you can't just give them 50 pounds to come to poetry.
Yep. Yeah, great question. So one of the hardest things to tackle, we've got the person they trust the most in this world with us. And sometimes you may have to work through those, but often it's about approaching it not in a way that's for our benefit, it's for their benefit. So one thing that is moving is basing our decisions on feedback. Now, you may not get them in a room. You may not get all of our clients in a room together for a workshop. I mean, it's difficult enough to get our staff in a room for a workshop. But in your app, you can be very, very sensible about when you send a tiny push notification, would you like to leave a review? And trust me, people want to leave bad reviews when they're annoyed. If you capture where they've left that bad review for you, and you build something to fix that, and then you call that client directly and say, hey, look, we saw what you said here. What do you think of what we're trying out to fix that? That's much more engaging. You're taking them on the journey, and you're building something that they want rather than something that suits your needs.
I have a two-part question. How much of the relationship with clients nowadays happens on a face-to-face level, and how much of it happens on a digital level? And how much of an education effort is from your side to make sure that your clients' grandkids are not going to be able to muck it up?
Yeah.
Make sure that they understand this is how money works. This is how I can keep money in the family.
Yeah. So I think the first part of the question was how much of it is face-to-face. So the way that I see this is that you separate out into three buckets. You have, I would like this job to be done. So you assess all the jobs that you do for your client. The jobs that I would like to be done in a fully automated sense, we'll automate that. A lot of it, payments, you want that to be done through your mobile. Everyone is starting to see that behavior. But when I come in and I'm talking about life planning, what I'm going to do with my life, and there's a load of complex stuff, my stuff is all over the place. Aggregation is a beautiful idea, but everywhere you've worked, your pensions are printed out and scanned into a system. So that stuff should be done face-to-face. And then the interesting piece is where you find the middle ground between assisted or hybrid. What can we use digital tools to project some of your future? But here it just enables this offline conversation. It makes it seamless. Previously, we would have to take on your information, go away, run it into our systems, talk to some people, then come back to you a week later and say, is this what you were thinking? Well, yes, but I want to tweak this and this, and then we go away again. Whereas now you can almost do it live with the client. So they can see and you take them on that journey. And the second part of your question was next generation education.
I'm assuming, imagine I just won the lottery.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the official statistics, but sometimes you look at the newspaper and say, this person won 25 million lottery, but now earned every single Las Vegas in a weekend because they didn't have the emotional maturity to deal with that amount of money.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming someone's kids.
Yeah.
It's if I develop a business, it's completely different than my kids inheriting some money. It's a different mental muscle involved. So how do you coach this family throughout your generation?
Yeah. So if you do win the lottery, we're here whenever you need. It's an interesting one. So there's if you want to read more about this, it's called Shirt Sleeve to Shirt Sleeves in 3 generations. So read about how, on average, every family runs out of money after 3 generations. But more importantly, how we tackle it on a practical sense. Each banker has an assistant banker who are often similar age to the children. And growing that relationship over time means that when you do have a wealth transition, they don't jump somewhere else, because the one key thing to understand is that it's not their parents' money anymore, it's theirs. And you have to align it around their goals. So why would you want to work with your parents' banker when you've had someone that's come up with you the whole time? So often we would try and pair a junior banker with a child of the next generation. And then a lot of it is almost education. But as you mentioned, it's awful everywhere in society. So we'll see. We'll see. I think some of the tools like the Nutmegs and Monzos of the world are starting to do that already. You just have to make it more engaging, more exciting, and show the value.
Is there one more question? If not, then can we thank Max, please?